Hello, and welcome to On the Pitch, a Missouri soccer podcast and your home for all things Missouri soccer. I'm your host, Bridger Pretz, and I'll be bringing you the latest news, match analysis, interviews, and stories from every corner of the Missouri and American soccer scene. Whether you're up in St. Louis, Kansas City, Columbia, or anywhere in the Show Me State, this is where Missouri soccer lives. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the On the Pitch podcast with your host, Bridger Pretz here. I've got an awesome guest, somebody I've known for actually quite some time, and not only did we play soccer together in college, but now we're actually working together to get kids at the next level. I've got Alex Severino. Alex, thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Bridger. Glad to be here.
No problem. Just a couple of things, and obviously the people that are listening, they don't really know you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what's your favorite color, just kind of give us any information you got.
Sure. So my name is Alex Severino, as you alluded to. I am the head men's soccer coach at East Central College. We are located in Union, Missouri, about 45 minutes west of St. Louis. We are a junior college, so we're a two-year school. That's kind of where we're at. And obviously, I've known Bridger for quite some time, so I'm excited to help you out and get on here and get the word out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just before we go into like where you're at now with coaching and everything like that, why don't you tell us about where you grew up? Where'd you go to high school? What was that like?
Sure. So I grew up in St. Louis. So I grew up in Baldwin, Missouri. And then I played a lot of club ball. So I played for St. Louis Scott Gallagher, which is kind of like the premier club team in the St. Louis area. And even in the country, you see guys like Josh Sargent that are doing really well overseas, right? He comes from St. Louis Scott Gallagher. And there's a lot of good, history and rich soccer history in St. Louis, especially with St. Louis Scott Gallagher. And Lou Fuse is really kind of taking the next step as well. So those are kind of the two big dogs, but you can see some smaller clubs popping up, but I was always a mainstay with St. Louis Scott Gallagher. So
do you have any names you want to drop, like some guys that you played club with that maybe went on to go do bigger, better things or anything?
Yeah. So, when I was a little older in my club career, mostly U17, U19, stuff like that, we had a bunch of the Maryville team was actually part of my club team. So actually I knew a bunch of those guys. Let's see, our goalie ended up playing at Creighton and then got drafted by Real Salt Lake. And he got a couple games. He was mostly with their basically, what is it now? Their second team, their USL team. And then let's see, a couple Truman guys. So we had a really good roster. It was a lot of fun. So after that, I played at St. Francis Borgia. I know for some people that it's a very hit or miss school. A lot of you guys either like us or hate us. I feel like most of people hate us, though. That's okay.
You guys, whenever you were in high school, how good were you guys like back then?
We were good. My freshman year, they were okay. Sorry.
Hey, are you a little tired from that Battlehawks game last night?
Yeah. Went to the Battlehawks game last night. Had my fair share. Had a lot of fun, but
do they still do that? Law is the law.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yep. Nelly blaring in the background. It's a good time for sure. Yeah. But yeah, we were good. My freshman year was a little bit down. My sophomore year, I got some decent minutes on varsity. And we were still about 500. Borgia really, in terms of powerhouses of soccer, has been more recent than when I was there. I was kind of one of a few kind of St. Louis kids that traveled out and played there. Now it's the program's actually doing really well these past couple of years. The current head coach there has them at a good spot. So
how far of a trip was that for you to go to high school there?
Oh, it was 40 minutes each way.
Oh, wow. So what was the reason that your parents chose to have you go there? Was it they liked the school?
I chose to go there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So my top three were CBC, DeSmet, and Borgia. So I took a tour of CBC, And as I was shadowing and kind of doing like the 8th grade thing, they just put me with some guys that I didn't really get along with, and kind of rubbed me off the wrong way, if you will.
Yeah.
So that kind of deterred me. I knew CBC is kind of like it's the soccer school in Missouri.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So and I had a lot of good connections there. I knew the head coach at the time, Terry Mickler. He was a good friend of mine. I did a lot of camps, did a lot of good things.
The Dutch touch.
The Dutch touch. I actually went with CBC to the Netherlands to play with part of the Dutch touch program. So, I had a lot of good connections. I had a good route to be successful there. But this shadow kind of threw me off. So unfortunately, then I went and toured Borgia. And I loved everything about it. I love, it was a co-ed school, so that was definitely helpful for me. I met my wife there. We're now have a 2-year-old son, so everything started at Borgia, and then there was an opportunity for me to play some soccer right away at a good level. So it's one of those schools that it's not too far from St. Louis, so we get a lot of action against St. Louis schools, but we can also play against, a lot of the Central Missouri schools as well. So my varsity year, we were actually really good. I would say we were probably a top 3 team in the state. And then we won our first district title for high school in a long time. And
the first in their program history?
Yep. And then one of the first, maybe the second.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the second. They had a good team in '99, I want to say. They had a good team.
Okay.
They got second in state in '99, I want to say. Nice. So that team actually had Pickens. What was his first name? I don't remember his first name. He was a goalie. He ended up playing in the MLS.
Yeah, Matt Pickens is who that is.
Matt Pickens. Yeah. He went to Borgia, so.
Was he a Colorado Rapids guy, I think, for a long time? Yeah. Yep. I don't know what he's doing now. I remember watching him, a couple years ago.
I think he was at the Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Okay.
But I think he's retired now. He's got 40, upper 40.
Oh, yeah, he was definitely in his 40s. If he played on that 99 team or whatever, then, it's definitely been a while. Right. But I remember watching him when I was a kid, and I was like, holy crap, there's actually a kid from St. Louis. I say kid, but a guy from St. Louis that's playing in MLS. That's nuts. And then that kind of gives you that rabbit hole of, oh, my gosh, there's a lot of kids from St. Louis that are playing pro. So
Sure.
But that's cool, man. So, after you have a really, really good high school career, obviously, did you always want to play college, or was that kind of just, if it works out, it works out. If not, I can always go do something? Or was college soccer always the dream?
College soccer was always the dream. College soccer. In fact, if I'm being honest, professional soccer was the dream. And I knew college was basically the route I was going to have to go to get there. Especially at the time, when you and I were going through the high school, it was very difficult, unless your name was Freddie Adu, to get into a professional setup. So
they didn't have the academies and everything they have now. I mean, the way the track for these kids that they have now, especially there in St. Louis, because now they've got the city academy in there as well. It is so much. I'm not going to say it's easier, because obviously it's not easier, but there's so many more options now with the MLS Next and ECNL and all of these. Like, they have so many more opportunities that even 10 years ago, 10, 12, now that I think about it, 10, 12 years ago, when you and I were playing high school ball, we just didn't have. If you weren't playing for St. Louis Scott Gallagher or Lou Fuse, you probably weren't getting picked up by anybody worth a darn,
No.
So they have way more opportunities now, and there's so many more apps and Instagram and TikTok that you can get seen. It's just these kids nowadays don't even realize how good they've got it. It really was. Sure. It was, and you had to be lucky if like a coach even watched the tape that you sent them.
Sure, yeah.
And if it get lost in the mail or something, I don't know, or you uploaded it to YouTube and you had like 2 views in 10 years, and you're like, I don't think I'm going to get picked up.
Right. It was more about who you knew, where you knew them.
Exactly.
Whenever we were going through. So, college was always the dream. Luckily for me, I was able to get seen at an ID camp by William Woods. So I ended up going to William Woods. I committed there.
What was the decision that made you like, what what overall made you choose William Woods? Did you have other offers? Did you have any other schools that you were looking at, and William Woods was just the better option? Or
Sure. So, yeah, I was looking at originally I wanted to go to Missouri State, and I did a couple ID camps with Missouri State, and then had a couple conversations with the coach at Missouri State. Actually, had a couple conversations with the assistant coach because at most Division Ones, the head coach doesn't do a lot of the recruiting unless you're like a top tier player. So I talked with the assistant coaches, and they kind of just relayed the information that. They didn't have much for me. It was actually between me and a kid from like Texas or something, and he was just lightning fast. So they just went with, the speed over, I'm more of a technical player. I'm a bigger guy. I'm 6'4". So I was more of a technical player. I wasn't going to blow anyone with speed, but I read the game very well. I pride in my strength, the ability to read the game and make the right decision. So they just went with speed over kind of technical ability, which was the direction they wanted to go at the time anyway.
They probably had the mindset of, well, we can make him better technically. We can't make speed. You know what I mean? Like a lot of that. Obviously, you can train. You can get in the weight room. You can do all that stuff, but like natural speed, it's one of those things you can't teach somebody.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So how was the recruiting process? Like you said, you went to some ID camps. How did Nathan? Because I know Nathan Mason. He was the head coach at the time. How did he reach out to you, and then how did you go about making that decision?
Right. So part of what went into it was what I wanted to major into. So obviously, if you're a young kid, you got to make sure the school that it's cool to get recruited, right? But you want to make sure you're going to a school that has the options that you want to do. It has the things that you want to go into in the future, because at the end of the day, if soccer doesn't work out, you need to be set up to succeed. So William Woods had athletic training, which is what I went to school for. So it was kind of one of those things where we reached out to them first, and Nathan ended up coming, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to be at that same tournament. I'll come by and watch your game, whatever." So he came by. He watched. I think he caught the second half of one of my games and played pretty well. And then we just had a conversation afterwards. I remember. I think we went to a bread co after the game, and he kind of sat down and we discussed kind of the program and the options available. So that's basically it. And Maryville was on my radar too, but William Woods came in with kind of the best offer for me. So I ended up committing there after my junior year. So I played my senior year under full commitment.
Yeah. And how, because William Woods isn't cheap. Obviously, it's not the cheapest university. It's an AIA. Right. It's private. How important was you having good grades and also just being an overall good kid? I'm assuming, in high school.
Right.
How important was that for you? Because a lot of these kids, again, like you kind of just said earlier, soccer doesn't always work out. I mean, 1% of the 1% even goes pro, let alone semi-pro, and make a little bit of money. It's like, how important is it now that you're getting the grades and focusing on what you actually want to do with your career after soccer? How important was it for you to get good grades in high school?
Sure. The grades equals more money at schools. We're a junior college, and when I talk with my team, I stress the importance of grades, because at the end of the day, if you have higher grades, if you do well in school, that gives you more avenues to earn more money to help ease the cost. So if you earn more money, you have to spend less money. Yeah. So
that's pretty basic math right there.
Right. So, the importance of doing well in school, even at a junior college, helps you get more academic scholarship, which means the coach can offer, he can offer so much to help cover the balance of whatever's left. Yeah. So for me, whenever I was going through recruitment, grades were important. I'm not going to sit here and say I was, the best student in the world. But at the end of the day, I understood, kind of what I needed to do, and I was able to graduate, and I'm not exactly doing what my degree is, but I think hardly anybody ever uses their degree for what they actually graduated with. So,
yeah. Well, shoot, I'm teaching special education, and my degree is in PE. So I mean, it happens,
Right.
Well, I mean,
So
you're kind of using some of those, you know,
a little
if
bit.
I mean, I'm sure you're taping ankles, you know, if you need to,
Yep.
or anything
Yep.
like that, and you're helping them, you know, if they're injured or if they've got a little tweak or something like that, or they need to stretch. I mean, I'm sure you're using those skills for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, it's good.
yeah,
It's definitely life skills that um it helped me. Here we go again with the voice. Sorry.
no, you're all good.
Um, yeah, no, it's definitely life skills that have helped me prepare because as a head coach, you know, there's a couple times, you know, junior college we don't have as many as much access to some things as maybe some division ones and twos have. So there's a lot of times I have to wear multiple hats. So I might have,
Yeah.
like you said, I might have to tape an ankle. I might have to be in charge of something or, you know, set up the field. You know, I wear many hats as a head coach. So
Yeah.
I definitely enjoy it for sure.
So I've got a great question for you here, and you played at St. Louis Scott Gallagher. You played at a pretty high level private school there in the St. Louis area, I'll just say. And you said you guys were pretty good. You guys were part of that, you know, changing of the guard almost and becoming a little bit more competitive with that group.
Right.
And then you went on to go play at William Woods NAI. What surprised you, I guess, about the level of play? Because, you know, you're playing for St. Louis Scott Gallagher. A lot of those kids are D1, D2, you know, even D3 or NAI commits.
Right.
But a lot of them, even if you're a commit at D1, that doesn't mean you're at a D1 level. And I think a lot of people, they tend to think they're really good in high school, and then they get to college and they're like, oh, wow, I don't know anything. Right. So what are some of the things that you noticed? And when you noticed the things that you need to improve on, how did you improve on them? Because were you a 4-year starter at William Woods?
Yes. Yes, I was.
You definitely were the 2 years that I was there. So I do remember. Or no, were you only played with me 1 year or were you 2 years? You were
I think it
1
was
year.
2.
Oh, 2 years.
Was it
Yeah,
1 or
you're
2?
right. You're right.
I think it was 2.
Yeah. So what did you have to do, or what did you notice about the level of play going from high school and club to even just the NAIA level?
Sure. So, you know, I'm going to be honest. You know, being a St. Louis kid, I was basically under the impression that NAIA was not going to be a good level. If I'm going to be honest, because it's, you know, obviously, it's Division 1, 2, 3, and then NAIA and then junior college. So I had this preconceived notion coming in that the level was not going to be very, very high. And that I was going to be one of the players that could come in and play a lot as a freshman. But then I got there, and let me tell you, the level was way better than anything, you know, I could have imagined. And being in the St. Louis area, I had never played really with much international players. You know, we'll go to tournaments, we'll play against maybe some Central American teams or whatever like that. That's about the extent of international play that I dealt with. But, you know, I get to William Woods, there's a bunch of Brazilians, there's some, you know, UK, there's you know, some South Americans as well. And these kids are unreal. They're unreal because that's all they do. All they do is play soccer. All they do is, you know, they touch football. They eat, sleep, and drink soccer, right? So I get there, and the level was just really good from the start. So you know, I was really impressed, and, you know, I was really excited that, you know, there's a possibility of us being very good. So it was one of those things, like, I had to step up my game, and luckily for me, you know, I had a really good preseason my freshman year, and kind of was able to springboard that into getting some playing time my freshman year for sure.
So what are some of the things that you did to help you kind of get into that lineup? Was it doing extra work? Was it getting in the weight room? Was it more like learning from those international players and taking things that they were doing and just kind of rolling with it and trying things? Or what was something that kind of helped spearhead you into that starting lineup? You said you had a good preseason. What happened there?
So, yeah, you know, basically, I like I told you, like I alluded to earlier, I'm a bigger guy. So my strengths are my technical abilities. So a lot of the things that, you know, I focused on in preseason were A, keeping it simple, and B, being strong on the ball, and you know, my abilities in the air to win aerial duels and stuff like that. That was a strength that I could bring to the table that not a lot of kids on the team at the time were successful at. So focusing basically on kind of one or two minute details and being really good at that. And then once I realized the level of training and the level of intensity and stuff like that, matching that, but also staying true to kind of my abilities, that's what kind of helped me prepare. So
I love what you said when you said keeping it simple, because I feel like there's a lot of kids, and we'll talk more here in a second about you now as a college coach and looking for things. I think a lot of kids think they have to be crazy flashy and do the tricks and all this stupid, in my opinion, it's not stupid because it works. A lot of the times it works and it looks cool and it's pretty, and Ronaldinho and Neymar. I mean, like everyone knows those guys, right? But I think a lot of people kind of miss out on is it's okay to be simple as long as you're consistent. And the biggest thing is you can do all the tricks in the world, but if you lose the ball 6, 7, 8, 9 times, right? Compared to the guy who just plays the simple pass, looks for the 1-2 and goes into space, who's going to be more productive? The guy who's trying to do too much, or the guy who's just trying to be consistent and play simple? Because simple wins games.
Sure.
I've been saying that the last couple of years now as a coach. You don't have to be crazy flashy and do all the tricks and stuff. If you can just pass to feet, play a one-time pass, and go into open space, you're going to beat teams. You're going to be successful. So I love how you mentioned just playing simple, because it really is. It's a simple game, but it's really hard to play it simple. Like that's one of the best quotes there. But no, that's awesome. And you wound up having a really, really good career at William Woods, and you were really fun to play with. Obviously, I was on the other side as the goalie, so during practice you were the one scoring against me, which it's whatever. It happens, A lot of people tend to score against me, but it happened, right? You had a really good career. It's awesome, and now you're into the coaching realm. Did you do any coaching before I know you were the assistant there at ECC. Did you any coaching before then, or how did you wind up even getting involved with the system?
Yeah, so I actually helped out when I graduated from William Woods, in 2017, I helped be the assistant coach at Borgia at my high school for a year. And then is
your wife still the head girls coach, by the way?
She is still the head girls coach.
Oh, nice.
She is still the head girls coach, and she loves it.
Look at that. Coaching family. Family. Love it.
Coaching family. And you know what? We collaborate a lot on different things. So it's good. It's good. Basically it's like I coach high school currently, because we're helping each other out so much that we're bouncing ideas off each other. So it's really fun. It's really fun to be able to import my knowledge and get maybe some of her takes on some things that maybe I should do as well. So
that's great.
But it was I forget the original question. What was the original question?
How'd you get involved with the ECC staff?
Okay, so I was the assistant coach at Borgia in 2017, and then I got a full-time job, and I just couldn't be at practices, so I did 1 year of assistant coach, and then after that 1 year I took a little bit of a hiatus. And then in 2019, kind of before the COVID stuff all happened, I rejoined Borgia staff because I had a change in jobs a couple years later, and so I was able to be around. I was coming up for their practices, and the coach kind of just looked at me and he was like, "Hey, if you're going to be up here, like, why don't you just be an assistant coach and actually help out with practices?" So I was able to do that, and not 2019, 2021. I'm sorry. So after COVID. And then that was the team that Borgia ended up winning state championship. So I was part of the coaching staff on that. And then
you get a ring?
I didn't get a ring.
Come on.
I didn't get a ring. I kind of felt bad. I joined kind of halfway through the season. I just felt like I didn't, yes, I helped out, but I'm not a big ring guy. I don't know.
Yeah. I got an Aura ring right now. I've got it on this hand. Like I'm literally getting married in 6 days now. And so I'm gonna get used to wearing a ring or whatever. So I'm not a big ring guy either. So I totally get it. It just feels weird, just too much on me.
Yeah.
But,
so then after the season ended, Mackenzie, my wife, and her parents actually told me that East Central was hiring an assistant coach. So East Central posted the job, and they actually saw it on Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. They put the details for the job out, and I had expressed in the past about how I wanted to get in the college game. I just didn't know how I wanted to do it, whether it was driving to St. Louis and trying to get on with one of the teams out there, or seeing what else was available. So after I saw this post, I decided to apply to it, because coaching at the end of the day is really, really what I want to do. It's,
absolutely, man.
I've had, it's one of the best kind of feelings whenever you can work with the team, with a younger group of individuals, and you kind of see it yourself as a coach. When you see it kind of click and it kind of starts going, and then you start playing some good soccer and connecting passes, and you're just like, oh, I did that.
I did that. I
got them in the
that.
mindset to do that. It's just a great feeling. So
one of the best feelings that I talk about all the time, and sometimes the girls or even the boys will point it out. They'll do something in a game that is like a direct, like exactly what we did in practice, like the day before, or a drill they did. And one of the kids will be like, "Hey, that's the drill we did." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, that's why we do it." Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's stuff works. Like, even if it's just like a little, combination and look for the cross and cross it in. Like, they'll do that in a game and they'll score and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we could do that." And I'm like, I taught you that. Like, whatever, it's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. So I was able to hop on. It was me and two other guys, and they hired me as the assistant coach, part-time assistant coach. And, I was able to kind of run with it. I was there for 3 years. My first year, we had a very kind of successful season, but we ended kind of short in our, it's called a region tournament. I like to refer to it as kind of like conference tournament, essentially.
Yeah.
We had this, it was kind of crazy. We had this like 6'6" Irish goalie, on our team. And we were what were we? We were the number 2 seed. We have 6 teams in our conference. Sorry, we were the number 3 seed. And 3 seed, first 2 teams get a bye. 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. So we were hosting the 6 seed, who we had smoked like 5-0 earlier in the season. And halfway through the second half, it was 0-0. And we have this 6'6" Irish goalie, and they cross half field, and this dude just launches a ball. And it goes over our humongously tall goalie, and it goes into the net, top corner. And it was just like, we were just stunned. We were stunned at what just happened. And then they ended up winning 1-0. They, we got a PK with like 5 minutes left, and it got saved.
My gosh.
And it was just like, it was one of
those.
It's
one of those days.
Right.
Yeah. One of those days where just nothing's gonna go in for you, man. That happens so much in high school too, man. Like, you'll be the better team, and then all of a sudden, like, you got 20 shots, and you're either only winning 1-0 or you're losing 1-0, and it's just like, what more can I do here? Like, we're doing everything we need to do. Exactly. And that's sometimes how the game works. I talk about it all the time, that you can be the better team in soccer and still lose. Like, it's really, really hard for.
It's one of those sports, right?
It is. It's one of those sports. And baseball's kind of the same way. You can be the better team, but you just didn't hit very well that day. And somebody just cranks one because they got a good hit on it, Football, I mean, it's really, really tough to be a better team and lose, because it's a little bit more, calculated with the fact that, like, these are set plays, And basketball, there's some times where a team just isn't shooting well, and but soccer is one of those, man. It's so tough to score anyway. And if you're just not hitting it, all it takes is one moment for another team, and they can do it.
Of course.
Like, we just had that in our district the other day playing Winfield. This girl hit an absolute nuke from like 45 yards out. Perfect hit. It literally just lobbed over our keeper, goes in, and we were the best. Like, we literally were dominating Winfield, and they score that. So then we're down 1-0. We didn't score until like the 12th minute of the second half. Literally 2 to 3 minutes later, that girl scores another one from 25 yards out. Luckily, the girls didn't, pout and give up. We wound up tying it up late, and then we wound up scoring in overtime. But but that's the thing. You can be the better team and still lose. Like, it's just so frustrating. And that's why staying so mentally focused during the game.
Sure.
What?
No, look at Arsenal and PSG.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I'm a big Arsenal
Oh
guy.
God, it happens.
I'm a big
Yeah,
Arsenal guy,
happens
and
all the time in the Champions League.
it's
Happens all the time.
it was frustrating.
Yeah.
They
Oh
Arsenal
man.
dominate basically the whole time, but PSG just their attacks unreal, so they find a way to
Yeah.
win.
I just don't understand how Arsenal wound up beating Real Madrid the way that they did,
Right.
and then going into PSG. But I guess it just doesn't matter. It's literally just though anybody can win on any given day. You could be the worst team, and I'm not saying Arsenal's not good, but Real Madrid,
It's Real Madrid.
it's Real
They're
Madrid.
giants.
Yeah, they had a weird year this year, even with Kylian Mbappe. I didn't
Yeah.
think that was going to be a good fit, but I guess we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah.
So now you've got the head job at ECC.
Right.
That's pretty big for you. So now that you've done that, what are some things that you've now being a head coach? What are some things that you're noticing that maybe you didn't know as an assistant that you have to do? Like, is it paperwork? Is it recruiting? What are some of the things that you're like that kind of opens your eyes to? Oh, okay, this is a little bit different than being an assistant.
Sure. So, actually, the previous head coach that I was under as the assistant coach did a really good job of kind of integrating me into kind of the everyday kind of activities in life of being a college soccer coach. So, when I got the job, actually I took over halfway through this past fall season. So, I kind of knew a little bit about kind of the day-to-day operations of running the team. It just when I took over, it got magnified on a different scale. So I think it was actually helpful that I took over halfway through the season, because now going into my first full year, I already have kind of an understanding of kind of what I need to do, who needs to go where, what needs to happen, what needs to get filled out. The only kind of real surprise for me was more about the when I'm recruiting kids, it's making sure all the paperwork is sorted and kids are staying up to date, more internationally than locally, because locally is pretty easy, but internationally it's getting different, whether it's the I-135 or the I-20 or stuff like that for their visas, making sure all the stuff is cleared and done in a good proper amount of time, so they can get their visas and come over here. So that's kind of the part that I wasn't really dealing with beforehand, but now that I'm dealing with it, it's a lot. It's a lot for sure. But there's obviously other stuff. There's some kind of daily paperwork stuff that I do, but that's just part of the job. That just comes with it.
So you're recruiting. When you're looking for kids, and I asked this on the last podcast that I did. It was because he was rebuilding a program completely from scratch. They had no players. You're coming in, you already have a team, right? You're just building on from what you've already had and what you're returning.
Right.
What are things that you're looking for in the players that you choose? Is it technical ability? Is it speed? Is it just being an overall teammate? Is it kind of a mix of all three things? What are you looking for in a player? And I guess, where are you looking for those kind of players? Is it more international based? Is it more local based, American kids? But really just kind of what are you looking for in a player?
Yeah. So, when I turn on a film and, for you, if I'm recruiting you and you're a goalie, right? I want to see your film, like, be goalie doing goalie things. There's a lot of times that maybe I'll turn on a film and it's a center back. The kid's apparently a center back, but then the whole film's them playing winger, or it's them playing forward,
or scoring goals
like that. And it's like, if you're telling me you're a center back, I want to see you defend. I want to see how you position your body. I want to see different, minor details. But if you're showing me film of a bunch of different, like, other stuff that's not pertaining to the position you're telling me you play, I'm just gonna close that video and basically sayonara on you. So when I look at a kid, whatever position you're gonna play, I want to see you doing the things that position requires. If you're a winger, I want to see how you control the ball at your feet, and I want to see how maybe you go one-on-one with guys and how you connect with kind of the forwards and the midfielders. If you're a defender, I want to see how you defend. I want to, can you defend as a left back? Are you up and down the flank? Center back, is your body positioning right? So, when I'm looking for recruits, it's mainly, do you have the technical ability that can translate to this level? And two, are you doing the things that your position is requiring you, requiring you to do? If you're a center back, can you play, a 40-yard pass to an open player on the foot? Or are you just launching a ball and then the other person's making you look good because they're, a fast winger that can get to anything?
Yeah. You've got 10 assists because you've got a guy over there who's an absolute stud. You're right.
Are you making the right? I just want to see you make the right play. Like if I'm going to turn on a film, are you making the right decisions with the ball? Are you making the right plays with the ball? Or even off the ball, are you defending properly? Are you in the right position? So those are all kind of things that I look for sure.
Yeah. I know international players, especially at the NAI level, there's a ton. Is there a lot of international players at the JUCO level? When I played JUCO a couple years ago, we had about 4 or 5, but the main core, most of it was some American guys. So Is JUCO kind of more, is that kind of changing with the landscape of how soccer is here in America, or is that still kind of the main core is American guys?
So our roster is basically half and half. We're basically half international, half American. Depending on the school you go to, the school you look at for the junior college level, it's either a lot of internationals or it's no internationals. So, or very few internationals, I would say. So like the national champion at junior college Division II this past year had a 40 man roster, but like 35 of them were internationals. Then we'll go play a school like MCCKC, who's in our conference, and he's only got like maybe 4 or 5 internationals, stuff like that. And most of his roster makeup is makeup is more American.
Yeah. Do you think that's more of a personal preference, or do you think it's because some schools they just struggle with visas, like getting kids internationally, or do you think it's more of a personal preference on some of those?
I think it can be both. I find that a lot of the older coaches that are like American coaches prefer to recruit American kids. And a lot of younger coaches like myself understand that the international level can add different qualities and bring the level of competition higher. So I tend to recruit maybe a mix, but obviously I understand that it's the local kids that also make your team as well. So for me, it's a healthy mix is what I prefer to go with. So I would say on my end, it's mostly preference. But it can be, if the school sets certain guidelines, which luckily for me, the school doesn't really have many guidelines for me recruiting wise.
Okay. Like they don't have like you don't have to have like a roster cap, or you need to have this many kids and
no.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Junior college is essentially the Wild West of
it really is. It really is. You have no idea what kind. I mean, and then I would also say NAI is kind of like the Wild West as well, because you really have no idea what you could have some 30-year-old ex-Guatemalan international like CMU had like 5, 6 years ago, and he's 30. He's got 4 kids over there watching him. It's just crazy. But JUCO's kind of getting that same way. There's just you never know what you're gonna get. It kind of depends on the luck of the draw on who you can get, and a lot of internationals, they look good on film, and then all of a sudden they get here and they're a complete dud. You never really know what you're gonna get from some of these kids. When you're looking for more local, like American guys, what schools are you looking at? Like, is there a certain pipeline you look for? Do you build connections with coaches, or are you just kind of looking at film and going to showcases? Really, how do you look for those American boys, and how can they get recruited by you? So like, what's something they can do to stand out?
Sure. So, I don't really have a pipeline. We this upcoming year, and even in the past, we've had kids from all over the state. This past year, we had a kid from Columbia. We've had a kid from St. Dominic High School. We've had this year, I got a kid from Festus. I got a kid from St. Pius. I got a kid from Fox High School. I got one coming from Troy. So it's all over the map. I got a couple from the area.
You got 3 from Moberly. You got 3 from Moberly.
3 from Moberly as well. So It's all over. I don't really have a pipeline. Obviously, the Franklin County area is an area that I want to showcase if possible. It's not for a lack of trying. I've definitely, talked with a few kids from the area. But at the end of the day, it's not my decision on where kids go to school, right?
Do you think a lot of them have that same mindset that you had whenever you were thinking about, whenever you looked at NAI, you're like, oh, NAI, it's a joke, yada, yada. Do you think a lot of these kids have kind of that same notion with, oh, junior college, bro, I'm D1, I'm D2. Like, I don't need to go to junior college, because I don't think they realize the level,
Yeah, and I do think so. And part of talking with these kids is getting them to realize kind of the level, getting them to realize how good the training sessions are, how good the competition in the games are. So getting local kids, getting St. Louis kids out to games, out to practices where they can see kind of how the level is, it definitely helps and will make them realize that, it's actually a good place to be. It's actually a good place to be. And there's many opportunities at the junior college level that maybe you wouldn't get at a NAI or even an NCAA. So, the one thing that, I can promise from my end when I talk with kids is, I don't want to recruit a big roster. I want kids that are going to come in here and are going to compete. One is what I tell kids, if you come in and compete, kind of like me, my freshman year of college, I just wanted to compete. If you do the little things, if you do the things that you're good at really well, and you just come in and compete, you're going to play. So I don't have the luxury of sitting on a kid for 2-3 years for them to develop. I need kids that are ready to come in and play. So, that's kind of what I tell kids that are coming in.
Yeah. What's a healthy roster size, I guess, for the junior college level? How many games do you guys play? I think it's like 12, 14, something like that.
Yeah, so most coaches sit around the 14 to 16 mark.
Okay.
The NJCAA puts a cap on it at 21.
Okay.
I don't understand why any coach would schedule 21 regular season games. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the year, if you play your conference tournament, obviously some conferences are bigger than others. Like if we play all the games in our conference tournament, there's 3. So I'm at 14 games this upcoming year. So 14 plus 3 if we win our conference. That's now 17. And then, if we go to a national tournament, you play a group play. So you get put in a group of 4. It's kind of like Champions League, the old style Champions League. You get put in a group, and then top 2 from your group move on to the bracket play. So if you're doing that, so there's 3 more games. So now you're at 20 games. And then if you go to bracket play, you possibly played 2 or 3 more games there. So you're at 23 just with 14. So if you schedule 21, just imagine how many more. You're now at 30 games on a season. And unless you have 60 players on your roster, there's no chance you'll be able to stay fit and healthy for that many games.
That's probably why you've got some of those teams that do have a 40-man roster, because then they schedule 21 games and all of that. So with junior college, obviously not every junior college here in Missouri has soccer. Like, here in Moberly, we've got MACC. They don't have soccer, but who all is in your region? Like, what are the teams that you do play? And then do you play them twice a year or just once a year?
We just play them once.
So who all's in your region then?
So it's us, obviously, East Central. We have St. Charles Community College. We have St. Louis Community College. We have State Fair in Sedalia. We have MCCKC in Kansas City. And let's see, who's the one I'm missing?
Is Quincy in there?
No.
John Woods?
No.
John Woods is not in your region? Okay.
No, they're not. They're in another one. What is the other one? I always forget.
Mineral area?
Mineral area. That's the one.
Ah, there it is. Okay.
Mineral area. So
what's the average like trip then for like a game? Because that seems pretty long. Like, those are pretty, besides the St. Charles and St. Louis, all the rest of those are kind of a little bit of a long trip, right?
Yeah, it's about 3 hours to Kansas City from us. So the farthest trip we'll take this year will be about 6.5 hours. We'll go down to Arkansas. We'll go play National Park Community College in Arkansas.
Nice.
So that's the longest trip we'll take. But MCC KC is obviously the longest trip in our conference.
Yeah.
So we'll travel to that, or actually they're coming to us this year, but
Oh, nice.
usually about 3 hours, 3-4 hours
Yeah.
is the longest trip we'll take.
And then do you play any, like even for preseason, do you play anybody who's not a junior college? Do you play any
Mhm.
NAIAs or
Yeah, yeah.
D3s? Who do
So
you
this
play?
preseason we have 2 games for our preseason. Our first one will be against Missouri Baptist. So actually, what
Okay.
we do is we end up playing their JV team,
Okay.
because what they end up wanting to do is they want to play us with their JV team so they can kind of see who from that team maybe could get some varsity time for them. And then we have a game scheduled against Culver Stockton, so we'll go play
Oh,
Culver
nice.
Stockton in preseason as well. There's definitely opportunities, and even in the spring, I try to schedule schools in the spring that aren't junior college. So this past spring we played Missouri S&T, we played Truman, and we played Harris Stowe University. So
Oh, wow, nice.
my goal for spring and kind of preseason is to get my guys looks from some local colleges, from area colleges that we normally wouldn't play. And hopefully they can see campus, they can see the facilities and stuff like that, and pitch these other schools, and the coach can look at my roster and be like, I like this kid, whatever.
Yeah. That's awesome. I was about to think, it was when I went junior college for 2 years, I was thinking about like, what did I do to get recruited out of that? And honestly, my story of getting recruited by Nathan Mason's a little funny. During the summer, one of the summers coming back from Neosho, I went and played in like a Sunday beer league with like all these old parts or whatever. And Nathan was on the team that we played against. So I was the goalie for this like men's league team, just, filling in for him. And I want to say I had like 15 saves. Like I was actually playing like kind of legit, but it literally was like a men's league. It was like an over 30s, whatever.
Right.
And after the game, he was like, do I remember you? Who are you? And I was like, I'm Bridger Pretz. Who is this? Because I didn't recognize him at the time. And he was like, oh, didn't you play on my sporting team or my, Columbia Pride team a couple years ago? And I was like, oh yeah, we were terrible, by the way. I think we won like one game and we drew one. We were just not very good. We were basically the kids who missed the tryout date, so they just kind of threw us all together in a group, and they needed a goalie, so that's how I wound up getting on it. And I remember him being our coach, but he only showed up for like 2 things because he had a William Woods assistant do it instead. So he recognized me, and then literally after my sophomore season at Neosho, I get a phone call, and it's literally Nathan Mason wanting to recruit me. So he recruited me out of like a men's league. So you never know, but it's all about like who you know. I mean, a lot of those things when it comes to recruiting. So how do you? I mean, we'll make this one of our last little segment parts, but how do you go about helping one of your players get recruited to a 4-year? Are you emailing coaches for them? Or people reaching out to you? Or are you kind of letting them kind of do their own thing? Or is it kind of a mix?
It's a mix. So what I tell kids when I recruit them to East Central is we got to work together. And a lot of times, especially internationals they go through agencies. So I'll talk directly with their agency. I'll talk with the kid and obviously myself. But I have certain connections throughout the soccer world that I can help get kids to different schools. And what I tell kid is, if you come here and you're successful and you do all the right things, your grades are good, the world's going to open up and it's going to be endless possibilities. And what we do is we'll work together. You have to work together. You have to put a list of schools that you want to contact that, in a region, maybe, why would a kid from Sweden who's in a naturally cold state want to go play for a college in Texas where it's hot all year round? That doesn't make any sense to me. So you got to go to areas that, one, you would feel comfortable going to, and two, we work together. So, if I think you're a good fit for a certain school, I'm going to try to push that school for you. And I'm going to contact the coaches, but obviously, some of the kids do their own re-recruiting as well. So they'll send emails out. And then, I've had phone calls with coaches from kids that have emailed certain colleges. And I talk about the kids, I talk about their work ethic, I talk about their grades and their soccer ability. And, So it's a two-way street is basically
Mhm.
what I'm trying to get at. If you put the
Yeah.
work in, you get out what you put in. So if you
Mhm.
come in, you do all the right things and you put in the work, I'm more than willing to help any kind of kid get to wherever they need to go.
That's awesome. It kind of reminds me a lot of like even just the high school way of doing things. A lot of kids are emailing coaches, and I'm reaching out for them, and it's kind of all that same way. You know, you really
Right.
only get them for like 2 years. Even some kids, you may even get them for a year. You know, because that's kind of what junior college is. It's a place to go and maybe get your feet wet and get yourself
Mm-hmm.
ready for that college level, and then go on to the next level.
Yep.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for doing this, man. This has been really fun catching up with you and
Sure.
getting a chance to talk with you. I'm super excited about next season for you. I'm excited to see how you do for an entire year with your recruiting
Yeah.
class. So,
I'm excited.
yeah. So, how can some kiddos get a hold of you? Like, if someone's interested in ECC, they're in that area. What can they do to get a hold of you? What do they need to send you? Is it send you film or just send you an email? How can someone get a hold of you?
Of course. So, obviously you can contact me. We still use email in the
Mhm.
year of our Lord 2025.
Yeah.
Things haven't really changed. So I would say sending me an email
Yeah.
with kind of
What's your
your
email?
sorry.
What's your email?
So you can email me at alex.severino at
Mhm.
eastcentral.edu.
Awesome.
So contacting me through there, kind of stating your intentions, where you're from, kind of what position you play, and then any highlight film, any highlight tapes are good.
Mhm.
I prefer not to bring in kids blind if I can.
Right. Yeah.
But if you have any film, attach it. That's probably the best way. I do check my emails every day. I check stuff. Um, Contacting me. There's different websites as well. There's Field Level's a good one.
Mhm.
NCSA I think is the other one.
Yeah.
So I'm checking those constantly for kids in the area. So those are probably the two main routes that I would go if I was a local kind of kid
Mhm.
nowadays. So yeah, that's probably the easiest and best way to go about it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for doing this, dude.
Hey, no problem. It was fun. It
All
was
right.
fun for sure.
I'll see you, man.
All right. Have a good one.